we need to talk. I am seeing so much stupid conversation happening around the bulking conversation. So I want to give you guys some practical takeaways because this is where people really seem to be missing the mark. If you are 150 pounds and your goal is to eventually be 180 lean, 190 lean, pretty standard amounts for natural athletes in the long run, you're going to have to gain weight. I don't see how this is hard to understand, but you're going to have to gain weight. Does that mean that the weight needs to happen extremely quickly? No, but it's going to have to happen. And this is where I'm seeing people are like,
oh, well, I'll just maintain.
And they're talking about maintaining their weight. I'm like, you're 140 pounds soaking wet. You can't maintain your weight to get up to 180 pounds. It doesn't work. Forget about the idea of surplus maintenance deficit. Forget about that idea. Let's just talk through weight implications. If you are in your first year of training and you gain 20 pounds in your first year of training overall, pretty darn normal, okay? I'm not saying all of it is going to be muscle, but gaining 20 pounds in your first year of training, pretty darn normal. Especially since you're gonna be gaining some initial uptake. There's gonna be some edema there, like there's gonna be water retention. There's gonna be a bunch of things that will contribute to that. So in your first year of lifting, if you gain 20 pounds or so, don't think of that as being some fail because you bulked, right? That's actually very reasonable. And then as you get further along in your training career, obviously you'll need to gain less. You're in my position, you've been training for a long time. You're 200 pounds, you're around 15% body fat. For me to actively try to gain a lot of weight in a short period of time makes absolutely no sense, right? It's gonna be a lot of fat for very little return on muscle. Does that mean that I can't slowly work my weight up over time? No, absolutely not. I would say even if I didn't work my weight up over time, that would be problematic because this is kind of the body fat where I feel really good at. Sure, I could probably get a little bit lower, but if I didn't actually work my weight up a little bit over time, I eventually want to step on stage at around 190 pounds, which is a big dream. Like that's, to give you a perspective, I was under 175 on stage last time. So to gain an additional 15 pounds of muscle at this point in my career is like, it's unheard of. Like I would probably not be able to do it. Let's say I get to 185. I'd only be losing 15 pounds to get ready for stage, which is great if I'm able to do it, but is there a possibility that I'm hindering my performance by trying to stay at 200 pounds, which is gonna be pretty darn lean if I can get my muscle level to be the point where I can be 185 pounds. That's pretty crazy. I don't think I would be able to do it. I don't think my gym performance would be solid enough at 200 pounds if I was carrying 185 pounds of lean mass, or I should say 185 pounds stage weight. That'd be very tough for me. Is it doable? Maybe. But I have a feeling I would need to gain a little weight. Now, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Do I need to get to 240 pounds in order to make this goal happen in the long run? Absolutely not. If I got to 240 pounds, I would just be a circle.
You just call me Blob? No.
I'd be bloat maxing. There'd be absolutely no reason for that. You have to take and apply some of these overall principles to yourself. And I think a lot of people are gonna get stuck in no man's land because they're gonna try to keep their weight so low because they're like, oh, I'm afraid of going too far up. Here's a very good way to do it. Give yourself a caloric amount that potentiates good performance in the gym. Now, you might not know exactly what that is, but let's say you're somewhere around 5'9", 170 pounds. If you're around 5'9", 170 pounds, start yourself off in the high 2000s and just see what happens, right? Even if you are a little bit under or a little bit over, it's not gonna be by that much in most circumstances, right? So that person being at that amount would probably make sense to just see where things level out. Give yourself like 2,800 calories, work on that for a while, go to the gym, see how you're feeling in the gym, track your weight over time. If you notice that your weight over the course of the next 2 months goes up 10 pounds, then obviously you're way overshooting it. So track your weight over time. The scale, I know some people like to go based off of pictures, photos, waist measurement, stuff like that. The scale I have found, especially as you get more advanced, is a more accurate determinant of what's going on because there are lots of other things that can impact those other variables. The scale is pretty objective. If I get to 210 pounds, I know I'm around 20% body fat. It's not, the scale's not going to lie to me and I'm gonna get to 210 pounds and I'm gonna be
Oh man, shocker, I'm 13% body fat.
It's not gonna happen. But it can be a little bit tough to determine when you're in your beginning phases of your career because those fluctuations can be a lot higher. And with your ability to gain muscle a little bit more rapidly, things can shift a little bit faster. Overall though, if you're seeing the scale trend in the direction that you want, then you're probably going to be okay. And if it's trending too fast in the direction that you want, all you have to do is bring your calories back a little bit. And I see a lot of people, when they're trying to figure out their calories, they're moving their calories around by like 300, 400, 500 at a time. Just take it easy. A lot of people are like,
oh, but I need to be exact right now.
no, you don't. You're at 2,800 calories. You track your weight over a little while. You find that your weight's actually starting to go down, which might not be a problem for you. Maybe you actually like it. Maybe that means you lost a little bit of body fat and you still have great gym performance, but eventually you're gonna get too lean. So at that point, you would say, all right, let's bring myself up to 2,900 calories, see what happens. Great gym performance again, feeling really good. Okay, maybe you start leaning out again. Then you're like, okay, I should probably raise it up to 3,000, but you're not gaining too much body fat, you're feeling good, your weight is slowly trending upwards over time. And this is what I mean when I tell you guys that you should be viewing calories as a potentiator for performance rather than the cause of your muscle growth. Let's say my maintenance is around 2,800 calories and I consumed 3,000 or I consumed 2,600. I'll probably have slightly better performance on 3,000, but I could actually probably perform pretty darn well on 2,600 calories for a good amount of time. Would that mean that it is the 100% best way to go? No, that would probably be closer to 2,800 or slightly over. I can still perform very well at 2,600. So for me to freak out because I might be in a minor deficit for a small amount of time doesn't make sense. But if I do start to notice these changes over time, not necessarily going the way I want, simply increase the calories. Drax, get out of here. Get out of here. You need to bulk. You're too skinny. You're too skinny. All right, get out. No, I mean it. Out. No, out. What I'm trying to tell you guys is the main issue that people run into is they try to increase or decrease their calories too drastically. So if something's not going the way they want, the scale's not going the way they want, they are maybe not having the best gym performance, what they'll do is they'll often increase their calories by a lot because they're like, oh, well, I need more calories in order to make this happen. They freak out, increase by like 300, 500 calories. And then 2, 3, 4 months later, they're like, why am I fat? Well, you're fat because you increased your calories way faster than you needed to. So what I'm saying is start at a reasonable amount, an amount that you feel like you would kind of maintain your weight at-ish. And if you don't see yourself maintaining your weight at that amount, you're losing weight, okay, maybe that means you need to increase a little bit. You're gaining weight too fast, okay, then you need to decrease your calories a little bit. And it really is as simple as that. I know people want it to be this hyper complicated thing, but once you kind of figure out your overall range where your weight would stay pretty stable, calorie adjustments from there are very easy. So I'll give you an example with myself. I'm probably around, if I'm just doing my regular daily activities, my maintenance is probably somewhere in the 2,800, 2,900-ish range, right? So if I'm feeling like, you know what, I want to give myself that opportunity to grow as best as possible, aiming for around 3,000 calories just makes sense. It does. Like, I'm not saying that I have to be at 3,000 calories in order to make progress, but if I want to continue to make progress over time, putting myself in about a 100-calorie surplus kind of makes sense, right? It's gonna mean that I'm having good gym performance, at least as good as I would at maintenance, if not slightly better if my body fat ever gets too low. Or I'm just having a little bit harder day, and then it's like, it gets me over a hump, right? But it doesn't need to be anything crazy. I don't need to be at 3,300. Put myself at 3,300, I'm probably gonna gain more fat than I need to. 3,400, I'm gonna gain more fat than I need to. Now I know what some of my more dedicated fans are going to say. I already know. They're gonna be like, Joel, didn't I tell you to go away? I didn't say bring me a toy.
But Joel, remember that time when you ate over 4,000 calories?
Yes, I do.
I worked out for 29 of the last 31 days on 4,500 calories, and here's what happened.
And I told you guys at the time, if you were actually listening, if you were a super dedicated fan, my calories do not need to be this high. I am just trying something out. That was the thing. I was just like, screw it, let's have some fun with it. Because I do experiments on myself. That's why I did Turk Builder.
I have erectile dysfunction.
That's why I did the Tonkat Ali experiment. That's why I played around with like varying splits and even times I'm like, you know what, let's try just training once a week for a body part and see what happens. And that body part grew pretty well, even though it might not be the absolute best way to go about things. I like playing around with things for myself.
What do you mean by that?
So, is there any need for me to ever bring my calories to that point? I would have to speed up so much in my overall total daily energy expenditure that I'm gonna go ahead and say no. There's a client I was talking to the other day, former client, and I'm like, hey, how are things going? Oh, pretty good. I'm maintaining my weight currently. I'm like, all right, how many calories are you on? 3,800. I was like, he's not like an over 200 pound guy. Like, we're talking in the 170s. And he said he was maintaining his on 3,800. I'm like, and this guy knows how to track. I'm like, holy crap. But he's pretty active. He's a very active guy. And I'm just like, the high calorie maintenance, but I'm not in that boat. So for me to arbitrarily increase my calories in order to gain weight at a specific rate, it does not make sense. Use calories to potentiate gym performance. If you're getting too fat, then you're probably going too fast with your calories. And if you're getting too lean, you're probably going too low with your calories. I get it, there's a lot of play here, there's a lot of subjectivity, but if you want to be the best bodybuilder or the best at building muscle, developing your health, fitness, whatever else it is in the long run, there's going to be a lot of things that you have to just be honest about yourself. So take pictures. Take pictures, same lighting, similar situations, do these check-ins every few days to every, okay, maybe not every few days, I'm a little bit more obsessive than some people, but do this like every week or so for a little bit, kind of figure out where your overall range is. And honestly, guys, above all, stop stressing. I'm seeing these people get so upset and they're so scared. They're like, what if? Adjust as you need, okay? You got a little bit too fat. You know what? There's always a deficit. There's always a little bit of a deficit that you can go into, clean things up, and then you can try to make things a little bit more accurate the next time around. But if you're always freaking out over the smallest little things, you are going to hamstring yourself. Eating at maintenance or a slight surplus is most likely going to be the best way for you to potentiate your muscle growth. That does not mean that you can't gain muscle in a deficit. You absolutely can. Even advanced lifters have been shown to be able to gain muscle in a deficit. Now, that would probably become significantly less as they got leaner and leaner, hence why we can't build muscle all the way to stage. But if you're eating around maintenance and you're able to have good performance in the gym, there is no reasonable reason as to why you should not be able to gain muscle tissue. I hope this clears some things up. I'm sure there will be people that are still confused and still stressing over things, but in the end, we're gonna keep it at that. But I'm sure there will be lots more questions. So if you guys have any, drop them down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. For the algorithm. That's a Lane Norton reference if you guys don't get that. He says that all the time. As always, love you guys, appreciate you guys. TNF out.